Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm back for the fifth episode of my five-part series on what it was like when I got into the business of real estate. And if you've missed them, you need to go back. I am in the Learn to Earn playlist. My first episode was why I got my real estate license. The second was taking the real estate exam or the course. And then my first day in real estate, what it was like. And then my first year, and today it is working with the kids, a family, a spouse, wherever you are in life, what that was like for me. I'm Carrie Little, the designated managing broker and co-owner of Caremark Realty Group in Illinois. And I am also a blogger on smartgirlmedia.com. And I also go live for coffee. I don't have coffee. Close enough. Coffee with Carrie on Instagram, typically every Friday at 9 a.m. So here we go. So when I got into real estate, I had kind of little kids. So Ryan was 11 and Lauren was 2.5, or maybe almost 2.5, like August 1st, she would have been 2.5. So I got in July 1st, 2001. And I'll tell you, working with kids, it depends. It really depends on your, what life is like at home. Do you have the support? And I can't say I didn't have support, but I worked a part-time job and my husband at the time worked a full-time job, like in the field. So it was exhausting for him. So this is how I worked real estate with kids. First of all, and most of I don't want to cook. Like, it's not even fun to me. Like, baking is fun because a chocolate chip cookie, German chocolate cake, beach cobbler, pie, anything sweet is good to me. Cooking is, I don't know why, it was just never fun. I could do it. And it's not, I can cook, it tastes good, but I don't want to. I don't want to. But so, and at the time, my husband wanted me to cook. So I had to figure all of that out before I could go into the office. And at the time, we didn't have, even though I might have had a computer at home, it was a tower, it worked slow, it was on AOL, 2001. You went into the office because they had a resource room and that's where we would work. So this is what would happen. When he would come home from work, I would figure out dinner. Then I knew I wanted to go to the office. So around 4 or 5 o'clock is when I would go to the office in Wheaton. And I would work from like 4 or 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. But when he came home first, he had to take a nap. He got off at like 3, he had to take a nap. And I had to figure out dinner. Sometimes I faked dinner. I'm just letting you know, I like put an onion in the oven. I think I learned that on some Christian station, like how to cook or make it feel like the dinner's already in the oven. I know you guys are like, who cares? Yep. So I went to the office and I worked late. We all had a key, so I worked late. The other thing you need to know is I worked part-time and my oldest at the time went to Medina Christian. And I actually worked a job where they let me bring my daughter. So Lauren would go to work with me. And what's even cool, the pastor that I worked for, he really wanted me to work. And they were like, you can bring your daughter. I'm like, I can. So here's me at work. I had the Abeka curriculum. Lauren was at work. She was so smart by the time she went to kindergarten because I was teaching her at the church. And then I would go pick up Ryan. Then I would come home, figure out dinner, and then I'd go to Baird Warner. That's literally what I did. And then, and I'll tell you, so I would work. And then even though in the last episode, I talked to you about, what my marketing was like, I would print at the office. I had my doorknob bags and then I would stuff the doorknob bags and hang them on a hanger. I probably should have had an example. And then I would walk my neighborhood with the kids. I didn't tell you that. So I had a wagon. And Ryan, actually, he's really a serious extrovert, like extra extrovert. And he knew all the people in the neighborhood because he would be up early in the morning. He'd be outside playing. And so he would walk with me and help me put doorknob bags out. It was just who he was. He was that kid that had a lot of energy. And I would put Lauren in the wagon and I would pull the wagon. The cool thing about that is people would talk to me and I was relatable. I wasn't scary. Not that I look scary anyway, but it kind of made you human when you walked your neighborhood. And so people would talk to me about real estate. And I'll tell you, sometimes they had to go with me. Now, the benefit of Ryan being 11 is he could kind of watch Lauren. Like if he was in the office with me, I could put him in one of the conference rooms. Lauren was pretty easy. She would like suck her fingers. And she was just easy in the office. Ryan might have been extra, so I had to give them things to color. He would play with Lauren. And I know some of you are like, "Ooh, I hate it when people bring their kids to the office." If you have kids, you know it would have been hard. So give us folks with kids some grace. So anytime someone has kids, I have to give them grace. Even when we have training, if someone says, "Hey, Carrie, can I bring my kid?" And like someone wanted to once when I did we were showing you how to measure in a home, like how to get a home ready to put it on the market. And I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea because it was a flip and I didn't want anyone to get hurt. But I do understand what it's like to work with kids. So I do give a lot of grace. But I'll tell you, you got to know your kids and you got to discern, is it a good idea? Like when we have events with our local association, like the Oktoberfest, yeah, you could probably get away with it. You probably could. There were times when I had to take my kids on showings, but Ryan was always with me because he was older. So there were things that I used to do. And it was easier if I had friends because Lauren, I could hold her and she'd go to the showing with me. Again, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I had to do what I had to do. And I didn't want to go back to work, not real work. And I really did want to eventually not have to work part-time at the local church. So let's see. The other thing I used to do is my kids were in sports. So Jonathan actually ended up on a team, a club for gymnastics when he was like 6, because Lauren and Maya I took them to gymnastics so they had something to do. And I was like, can I just add him? They were like, sure. The next time I went, they were like, can we test him? I'm like, whatever that means, sure. Then they were like, can we upgrade him to 3 days a week? I'm like, how much? And then we upgraded him. Then they were like, can we put him on a team because he's really good and he just kind of knows it. I'm like, really, how much? It was like $5,000 a year. But anyway, the cool thing about gymnastics at the time, and I don't even remember what year this was because Jonathan is going to be 20. The cool thing was I would always bring my laptop at the time. So it was a little bit different. And I would sit outside because he was young, he was 6, and I would work. And people would say, so what do you do? And I'd be, I'm a real estate agent. And they would ask questions. So I did work with one of the coaches. And then Lauren she played the flute and she played the violin. So I actually helped one of the orchestra teachers buy a house. So it was kind of cool. So here's the truth is, as a parent, you take kids. So Jonathan was in baseball, he was in basketball, he was on gymnastics. Lauren played soccer. She would play 2 instruments. And then when she went into high school, I became a member of the booster club. Like everywhere I went, someone was asking me about real estate. Now, did they always work with me? No. But I became the person that people would talk to because I had the data. Now, there were times people would say, Carrie, what are you doing? I'd be sitting in the bleachers writing a contract. And they would say, why? Can't you just take a break? I'm like, well, I'm in the business about selling real estate. And if you could refer business to me, then maybe I don't have to work this hard, all the time. I did put out my pitch, but then I would say, I just need a few minutes because I got to follow up with some clients. And there were times I'd be writing contracts in the parking lot. Seriously. So working with kids wasn't always easy, but I did what I had to do. And if you've been listening to the whole series, or maybe you need to go back, my goal was to not have to, my goal was to be available for my kids. The other one was I thought I could do a better job than the people in the past. Like my real estate agent was great, but I felt like the mortgage company could have explained it better. The other thing is I know what it was like to go through the process, having to write letters, going FHA, what that was like, having to save for a down payment. So I just felt like I could explain it better. And so, fast forward, I wanted to be able to go to my kids' games. I wanted to be, take them to the swimming pool. I wanted to be able to take them on vacation. So real estate was an avenue to that. And for those of you that are watching thinking, well, Carrie, I have 3 kids or I have an infant. I got pregnant September, my first year. I did. And let me tell you, some of you will get this. For 5 months, I threw up. First of all, you'd think, why would you have another one after you had the first one at 19? Because I threw up for 5 months at 19. It sounded like a dinosaur every time I would throw up. And you're like, why are you telling us this? Because when I got pregnant with Jonathan, I still went to the office. I would go to the bathroom, throw up. I'd eat a Hostess Twinkie because that worked, or a ding dong, or a cupcake. Sugar seemed to work. I did what I had to do because I needed to do the business. And here's the point. working with kids or working with a husband or working with a spouse or working and you got to take care of someone. I work my business. Today, social media makes us think, oh my gosh, how do I get to doing 5 million a year or 100 deals a year? I mean, like, that's a lot. There's one top producer I work with, and she's out of the North Shore area. And she told her kids, look, if you like the stuff you like, then I got to work like this. Eventually, your kids will be in middle school, or eventually they'll be in school all day, or eventually they'll be in high school, but eventually they do go away. So I'm speaking to those of you that are the stay-at-home parent, probably women. You got to at least learn the business. And if you're like, Carrie, it's hard to show, find an agent in the office, get on a team, be their transaction coordinator. Listen, if you're nursing, if you're a mom and you're like, I'm exhausted, when they're exhausted, you got to work through it. Don't drive exhausted, but you need to figure out how to do the business and learn it, because they will get older and you're going to need something to do. And I have seen it. First of all, stay up with the technology. Make sure you're following social media. Make sure you're doing direct mail. Make sure you're coming to class, even if it's on Zoom. Like, figure this out. And I'm telling you, Jonathan, by the time he was 2, they used to call him the Baird and Warner baby. He's the baby that knew, even today, when you close, mom, you just closed the deal. Like, he knew when the commission check was coming. He knew. You got to figure out how to work with your kids. And if you got to eventually put them into daycare, and I did, because Jonathan, Ryan was the most work, but he was the youngest. He wasn't in school full time. I had to put him in daycare like 3 days a week, and it worked for me so I could sell real estate. Figure it out. First of all, the kids get to play with other kids. Maybe the neighbor, maybe you, how about this? Let me give you an idea. How about you and the neighbor get your licenses, and now you can collaborate. One of you gets to stay home with the kids, maybe the next week, or however you're going to work it out. But then one of you can write the contracts, you could be a team, and you can have a career. And now you get to be the person that saves the money to go on a ski trip to Vail or to Cancun with the kids. Like the sky's the limit. What do you really want, and how can you do the business? You don't have to do the business like the top producer that has no kids that can do 100 deals a year. Do the business for you. You don't have to go have someone follow you around on social media. Do what works for you. Like, I don't think I could be on a reality TV show because, first of all, I don't know what my husband would say. So here's my point. Working with kids, it can be done. If you want to have kids, it can be done. Figure out what's the plan. What do you really want? And for me, it was making enough money. I didn't care about being a top producer. I watched the top producers. I wanted to be a top producer. We didn't have social media. We didn't have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Snapchat. We didn't have all the stuff. We didn't have the stuff to watch where people are like, hey, I'm showing houses. And you're like, I don't have a client. Like, get over it. Go work your business. What if you didn't have social media? How would you work? Work like that. So thanks for joining me. I'm Carrie Little. Thank you for watching this 5 series, these episodes on my 5 series of what it was like when I got into the real estate business. And of course, if you have questions, type them in the feed. I try to look at my YouTube channel. Join me on Instagram on Fridays where I go live. Take advantage of the courses that I offer. Take advantage of when I'm in person. Come see me in person. I'd love to meet you. Show up, to events. Go network. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and make sure and follow me on TikTok. I didn't say that. Follow me on TikTok. All right. Have a great week.